I asked AI to write me a keto vanilla cake recipe, and I actually made it. Yep, this cake came straight from ChatGPT, and honestly, this cake surprised me in a good and bad way. Of course, making it didn't go exactly according to plan. Some of it was Chat's fault, some of it was my fault, some of it was the dog's fault. Did this cake live up to my expectations? Let's find out. Okay, a little backstory on this. I spent years trying to develop a keto recipe for white cake that actually looks and tastes like real cake. Not eggy, not crumbly, not dense, not just good enough to be keto. I mean actually good. And I couldn't quite nail it. Now that everybody seems to be using AI for everything, including recipes, I decided to turn to ChatGPT. I asked it to give me a recipe for keto white cake with a vanilla buttercream frosting. But I didn't let it run wild because I had certain ingredients that I wanted to include in the recipe, and I knew that it would help give this cake the best chance of being the greatest keto white cake of all time. Plus, I was worried that it would just poach a recipe that somebody else already had on the internet. So I gave it some rules. No all-purpose flour, no coconut flour, and I wanted it to use almond flour and oat fiber and protein powder. When I saw the recipe that it gave me, I thought, okay, this actually looks like it could work, but would it actually? And would it taste good? So I grabbed a bowl and started to work. I whisked together 2 cups of almond flour, 2 tablespoons of oat fiber, not oat flour, because they're different. I wanted oat fiber because it helps give a better texture and a cake-like crumb to my keto baked goods. Plus it's 0 net carbs because it's just insoluble fiber. Then a 1/4 cup of whey protein isolate powder. And I wanted to add this because it's gonna help give our cake that fluffy texture. Then a tablespoon of baking powder. And my initial thoughts were, that's a lot of baking powder. Normally when I make keto baked goods like cookies and cakes and things like that, I would never use a tablespoon. It's just maybe 2 teaspoons maximum. The last time I used a whole tablespoon of baking powder, I was making a recipe for keto cookies. I won't mention who developed that recipe because I actually really like her, and I think this was just a typo, but it just ruined the entire batch of cookies. That's all I could taste was baking powder, so 1 tablespoon was way too much. But we're going with it. We're doing a whole tablespoon. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna whisk that together until it's all combined and then set that aside. All right, quick break while I eat something because this cake is turning out to be quite the journey and I'm starving and I have been living off of these lately. This is Magic Spoon's high protein marshmallow treat bar. If you've ever tried to find a protein snack that doesn't taste like drywall or like that doesn't stick to your teeth and tastes like a melted bouncy ball, these are something you have to try. Their protein cereal bars are crispy, crunchy, and not at all sticky. They've got around 11 to 12 grams of protein and just 1 gram of sugar, and they taste really good. These cereal marshmallow bars are the best. And the granola, 13 to 14 grams of protein, 0 added sugar, and flavors like honey almond or peanut butter. I love throwing it on my yogurt or just eating it straight out of the bag while I'm pretending to do something productive, like working. If you want to try it, use my code KetoFocus5 or click on the link in the description box to get $5 off. You can also grab Magic Spoon from Amazon or even at your local grocery store. I actually found it at my local grocery store and get it there quite often. And yes, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee online. So if you don't like it, and I don't think that you won't, they'll refund you. Just click on the link in the description to go to magicspoon.com/KetoFocus5 or scan this QR code here and you'll get $5 off. Back to the cake. Then in a separate bowl, because we respect baking science and we don't want to combine everything into one bowl, even though I'm tempted to do so because I hate doing dishes, I added in 6 egg whites. Now, egg whites are a typical ingredient that you find in a lot of white cake recipes. You don't want to use a whole egg because that egg yolk is just going to color your cake yellow and you're trying to go for a white cake. Plus, using only egg whites helps to rise your cake up a bit more and gives it a more finer, delicate crumb. Now, Chat said to mix these until they were a little frothy, which I found to be very vague instructions. I would have liked to have had a time, but they didn't tell me that. So I thought this was probably good enough. Then I add in a 1/2 cup of melted butter to this. I also found this odd because most traditional white cake recipes use either softened butter or vegetable oil, not melted butter, but maybe AI knows something that we all don't know, or maybe they're just making it up. I think they're probably making it up, but we'll see. Then a 1/3 cup of plain Greek yogurt. It said that I could use sour cream here instead, which is typical for a lot of white cake recipes, but I like the idea of getting a little extra protein, so that's why I used Greek yogurt. Then 2/3 cup of allulose or a monk fruit blend sweetener. I don't think that Chat realizes that allulose and monk fruit blend sweeteners don't substitute cup for cup with each other. See, monk fruit blend sweeteners do substitute cup for cup with sugar. They have an equal sweetness, but allulose tends to not be quite as sweet, so you have to add more of it. I didn't have any granulated allulose, so I went with my granulated Lakanto Classic, and I did use 2/3 cup. Then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. That's totally normal in most cake recipes. And then a 1/4 cup of almond milk, which is typically found in a lot of cake recipes, but they usually use more of it, like a cup of milk. Then chat said to mix the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, which I also thought was a little strange because typically you add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients a little bit at a time. But like I said, I'm doing everything that chat tells me to do. This actually looks like cake batter. And I did sample it and it tastes really good too. So this cake is turning out to be a little bit promising. It might work. We'll see how it bakes up though. Chat said to pour these into 2 8-inch cake pans, and I've lined these with parchment paper and buttered the sides. Actually, chat didn't say to do this part, but it's just common sense, and I really wanted to give this cake a good shot at turning out, and I knew that if I didn't line it or butter the sides, it's gonna stick to my pan. He said to bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for around 22 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean and the tops didn't jiggle. I inserted a knife because I didn't have a toothpick. And I also think that these cakes could have come out at minute 20 because they were a little bit brown on the edges. But I don't think that they overbaked. They actually looked perfect. I let them cool in the pan for around 10 minutes before loosening the edges and transferring them to a wire rack to cool completely. Then I wrapped them in plastic, shoved them in Ziploc bags, and set them aside on the counter overnight. Well, because mom duties stepped in. I had to go play Uber driver for my boys and didn't have time to finish filming the cake. It's the next day when I'm making this keto buttercream frosting, and a lot has happened since then. When I came home last night after my chauffeur gig with my kids, I found one of my cakes on the ground and it was broken into pieces. It was still in the plastic bag. My dog had got a hold of it. What is that? Why'd you do that? What is this? Why don't you look at it? You know, huh? Obviously, he did not read my note that said not to eat it. And I almost chopped off a finger last night making dinner. Life is great. It's just going great. But we're not giving up. This broken cake is gonna work. We're gonna frost it like nothing ever happened. For the frosting, I beat together 1 cup of softened butter. Chat said to beat the butter until it's pale and fluffy, around 2 to 3 minutes, which I did. I actually think I beat it for around 4 minutes. And then I added in 1/2 cup of powdered allulose. It said I could use powdered monk fruit blend sweetener as well. I actually have powdered allulose, so that's what I used. I mixed that in until it was combined, but I did find the amount that I used really odd. Most buttercream frosting recipes call for around 4 to 5 cups of powdered sugar for the same amount of butter, but I don't really like my frostings overly sweet, so I just went with 1/2 cup. Then 2 teaspoons of vanilla, mix that in, and then it said to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of heavy cream, which you gradually add until the desired consistency is reached. I mixed in the full 2 tablespoons, but I felt like my frosting looked a little dense and a little bit too much like butter. It actually spread like butter too. It's so thick. Like this could go on toast. So I asked ChatGPT how to fix it. It said to add more cream. I did that and nothing. It was still like frosting a cake with a piece of Kerrygold butter. After a little more prompting and telling Chat that it looked like butter and what did I do wrong, Chat said that I hadn't whipped my butter long enough. My first thought was Chat is an idiot, which I mean, sometimes it is. I did mix it. I mean, I mixed it for 4 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes. But then I realized that I was using my cordless mixer. I love my cordless mixer because it's aesthetically pleasing. I mean, I'll show you. I mean, it's a little dirty right now, but it just looks good. Plus, I love that I can just mix anything anywhere. I mean, I can mix things in the car, but the downside is that it's not that powerful, or maybe just the battery needed to be charged. So I don't think that it could whip enough air into the butter. So I made another batch using my plug-in mixer. It's not as pretty, but I mean, I had to anyway, because this was not gonna be enough frosting to frost this entire cake. It was just enough to do the center layer and part of the top. But my second batch was much fluffier, and I also had bumped up the sweetness in this second batch by adding a 1/4 cup more of allulose powder, just because honestly, I felt like the first batch, even though I don't love overly sweet frosting, I didn't feel like it was sweet enough, and it was just giving more butter. So I added a touch more sweetener and it was perfect. Then using my amazing amateur cake decorating skills, I slapped that frosting on with the confidence of somebody who thinks that they're on an episode of Bake Off, minus the skills, finesse, or a clue of what I was doing. I am not a good cake decorator. I've told you guys that before. But dang, look at this thing. Hello, Timu Martha here. Now, I might have made the outside of this cake look pretty decent, but it's time to see what the inside looks like. Oh my, that slices like a dream. Excuse me, look at this crumb. It's not dense, it's not crumbly or rubbery, it's spongy, it's fluffy. It looks like cake. And the taste? Wow. I think I'm out of a job. I'm impressed. This came from a computer who has never picked up a spatula in its life. I mean, I'm still gonna take some credit because I did tell it to use key ingredients in the recipe. It just filled in the rest. And it was wrong about the frosting. So did ChatGPT deliver? Honestly, yeah. It's not the best keto cake I've ever made, and I still think I could probably do a few tweaks here and there to make this cake even better, but it's a great start. The texture is spot on, and I think if I were to make this again, I would probably add a little bit more vanilla to the cake batter, and then maybe a little bit more sweetener to that cake batter too. It was sweet, but I felt like it could have just been a tad more. And I'd probably do a Swiss meringue frosting too, because that's my favorite frosting. Maybe I'll let a robot do more of my recipe writing. Maybe. In the meantime, check out how I use sauerkraut to make the best keto chocolate cake. Just click right here to see that recipe. And don't forget, if you want to try Magic Spoon's granola or their treat bars, use my code KetoFocus5 and click the link down below to get $5 off.